and welcome to Unlocking Efficiency with Conexxus Payment System Product Codes. I'm your host, Casey Brandt, a standards coordinator for Conexxus, and the moderator for today will be Chuck Young, Chief Technology Officer for Impact 21, a WCAPR company. Through his 40-plus years in the retail industry, over 30 of them in petroleum convenience, Chuck has become an expert in the world of retail IT. He works with retailers, both large and small, to implement and leverage retail technology stacks that drive efficiencies. During his 20-plus years of product management and consulting with Impact 21, Chuck has worked with retail chains ranging in size from 8 stores to several thousand. So I've got a few quick things to go through before we get started today. I'll do a little bit of housekeeping, give you some information about Conexxus. We'll introduce our presenters, and then we'll go into a presentation and the Q&A portion of today. The replay will be made available on Conexxus365.org, and you can send questions directly through the Zoom interface, so please feel free to send those in early so that way we can ensure your question gets answered. PCI credits are available for qualifying live events, so please contact us if you're interested in that. This disclaimer is just a slide that we have to put in that shows that the views and opinions are solely of the speakers and not Conexxus itself. I would like to thank our 2024 sponsors. I give a huge thank you and shout out to them. Their extra support is really appreciated and allows us to continue the work that we do on behalf of the industry. So to give you a little bit of information about Conexxus, we're a nonprofit technology organization. Our members really do the heavy lifting. We provide a neutral forum where retailers and vendors can network and come together to create standards and solutions that are beneficial to our industry. We educate through white papers and events like this one at Conexxus365, and we advocate on a technical level at other organizations to help steer the conversation around standards and policies so that changes don't negatively affect your business. So Conexxus365 is an educational webinar series with monthly webinars. So make sure you're subscribed to our email list and that you check the website to be notified of future webinars. All right, now I'll turn it over to Chuck Young to introduce our speakers, and we'll get started with the webinar. You're still muted, Chuck. There you
go. Should have practiced more. Thank you, Casey. Today we have a very well-established panel of experts to talk to us about payment system product codes. Sharon Scase, the lead product manager at WEX Incorporated, with 34 years of experience in the industry. She's a seasoned expert in transaction processing and payment systems. In her role as lead product manager at WEX, she focuses on the acceptance of the WEX card and maintenance of its specifications. And just as importantly, as the chair of the Retail Financial Transactions Committee at Conexxus, she really does play a pivotal role in shaping the future of retail transactions. We also have Brad Bossert, the Senior Director of Sales with Bullock Technologies, now part of Dover Fueling Solutions. Brad started with Bullock over 35 years ago as a programmer. Because it was such a small company when he was helping start and form it, he is a jack of all trades. Honest to goodness, he designs, he programs, he supports, he installs, he manages, and he consults on the product as well. A strong proponent of evolution, not revolution principle. Surrounded with technology center partners, Bullock has succeeded very well in Canada and has now become part of Dover Fueling Solutions. And last but not least, we have Todd Hornick with us. Todd is the Director of Payments Technology at Phillips 66. And there he manages the payments technology design, development, and implementation efforts for all branded and unbranded locations in the U.S., including the fuel brands of Phillips 66, 76, and Conoco. Todd's brings 24 years of experience developing innovative retail applications in the petroleum and convenience industry's point-of-sale systems, focused mostly on the processing of electronic payment transactions. That's our esteemed panel today. We're going to talk about the Conexxus, next slide there, Miss Casey, what the Conexxus payment system product codes do for us and why we have them. Duly noted here on the slide, we are currently at version 4.2 of the code. And that is available on the Conexxus website. It is an available standard for Conexxus members and non-members as well. And it helps us solve some problems. So speaking of the problem, Casey, next slide. When this first evolved and came about, we ran into these particular problems in trying to create a solution for that. Lack of uniformity in product identification results in all of these things: misreporting, making translations much more complex. There are tax implications at the retailer level, at the supplier level, at the merchant level, and so we're trying to solve for that. Occasionally, we have the inability to authorize the transaction. We can have the loss of product data if the retailer is using a code that rolls up all of the data into one very summary level code. We can get a loss of discounts, and discounting is an important thing. We have the various weights and measures organizations throughout the entire country, some local city, certainly state, the National Institute of Standards and Technology is involved here. And we want to make sure that everybody's clear about what we're doing there. We can have failures at settlement besides the inability to authorize because codes are wrong or not available. And then most importantly, we have the consumer confusion as to what's going on. How come I'm using my card and it won't work at the store, but it works that site, and so on and so forth. So all of these problems came to a head when Conexxus was asked to get involved. So Casey, on the next slide, we were asked to create a standard set of codes. The standard set of codes is quite long at this point now. We are up to version 4.2 and been iterating it for a number of years. As you can see, the current version is very current, just released a month ago. Made it all the way through the process of being approved and stuff within the Conexxus system and available to everybody. So that's what we're trying to do with this. And here's our agenda for today. We're going to talk about really three areas with the experts. We'll talk about purpose and benefits. We'll talk about implementation and integration. We'll talk about data management reporting. And then we'll have a slide before we get to Q&A. We will have a slide on next steps. What can you do as part of this food chain, if you will? How do I get involved as a retailer? How do I get involved as a product supplier? How do I get involved to make sure that I'm using the most current and using them correctly? So Casey, if you'll move on to the next slide. So in the purpose and benefits, there are really four areas of conversation here. Standardization. We've provided a standardized system for product codes for the convenience store in the retail petroleum industry. This really is trying to ensure consistency and compatibility across different systems and platforms. And this is quite honestly grown in its use from inception to out now into even the fleet world as well, and not just consumer credit cards. Efficiency is important. It's a way to streamline the payment process, reducing the need for manual input, minimizing errors. It honestly can help create a faster transaction time for the customer, which will lead obviously to improved customer satisfaction. And it helps with the reporting that will come at the end that we'll talk about. Interoperability. Conexxus facilitates as best we possibly can the seamless integration between different systems, various point of sale systems, back office systems, payment processors, different kinds of fuel dispensers. This interoperability is really crucial for that smooth data exchange in order to make operations go fast. And then in compliance, by having a standard for compliance, it helps everybody in the industry comply with standards for regulations. We talked about weights and measures a little bit ago, making sure that systems are up to date and secure, that we're using for that the same set of standards to do reporting, even at the next state of the industry level. And so utilizing all these codes here are very important. And I think probably the only other thing I would say there in this area is that there's a breakout in the codes between fuel and non-fuel items, or breakout between taxable and non-taxable. It goes way beyond just what you see at your normal convenience store. There's racing fuel, and there's way too many grades of diesel, it seems like now, Sharon. And there's jet fuel, and there's all sorts of other things in there. So I'm going to start with Sharon because she's the head of the Retail Financial Transactions Committee here. So Sharon, how do the payment system product codes help with compliance?
So as you pointed out, Chuck, one of them is in the weights and measures area and knowing exactly which products are being dispensed. This becomes critical for truck drivers who can have both taxable and non-taxable fuel, and that they're following the local regulations in the use of that, and the merchant can do the reporting properly on the sales of those products. As you get into your green fuels or your biodiesel fuels, to be able to get any of your credits involved in that, you need to be able to report on that accurately. So it's very important for just overall knowing what you've been selling and how to report on that.
As a follow-up there, how often do the codes change? How do changes come about?
So typically it's been a little bit less than once a year. The changes are published. This last version took us a little bit closer to 18 months, but we went through a major overhaul of these product codes. They start with a merchant or even a vendor saying, I need a new product code. So for example, in this version, we have 2 new EV product codes that came to be because 3 didn't address some of the things in the future. We have the new environmentally friendly fuels that came up. We have a couple of requirements that came from Europe because the standard isn't just used here in North America any longer. So it's addressing the needs of the community.
Excellent. Todd, your organization is a fuels-based organization. I understand. I know very well you have convenience stores and offer merchandise and stuff like that. But can you tell me why this product code list is important for interoperability in the fueling environment?
Yeah, absolutely, Chuck. So I think we've touched on some of the problems that really relate back to the fuel environment, but a consolidated and standards-based product code list is really crucial for retail interoperability, especially in the fueling environment for a number of reasons. First of all, I think that number one would be consistency, just ensuring that products are identified uniformly across the different systems platforms. Helps reduce errors and misunderstandings. And so when we talk about consistency, we're talking about from the price sign to the dispenser to the point of sale to the issuer to the settlement process. All of that leads to better efficiency. So streamlining operations helps us by enabling seamless communication and data exchange between the various systems, such as the point of sale, inventory management, and the supply chain systems even. We also see benefit in compliance. We talked about it. Sharon even mentioned it. Helps retailers adhere to the industry regulations and the standards, really helping to ensure that all products meet the necessary requirements, whether it's labeling, identification, and then all of that leads to a better consumer experience too, where it enhances the experience by the customer by providing more accurate product information, which ultimately facilitates overall smoother transactions, which is what we want to see from a fueling environment, whether it's brand or unbranded.
Okay, great. Brad, you provide the point of sale system and other ancillary systems. You as a developer have had challenges throughout this. What went on before this standard came on, and how much of that challenge has been solved for you guys as a provider of the industry now that we have more standardized codes to be able to be used?
Yeah, where we try and keep a standard offering in our software across all of our customers, we used to have 2 or 3 or even 4 different identifiers for various types of product or merchandise that would let the loyalty platform use one identifier, the payment system use a different one, and the data lake population use another. These challenges meant that we had to make sure that we sent the right code to the right company. With a unified standard now, it sure makes it much easier. There's much less work for us to do as a developer because it's understood what the codes are. So it's been actually financially beneficial to our customers. Less customization as a result of this.
Great. Let's talk a little bit, Casey, if we'll go to the next slide, about implementation and integration. We want part of what Conexxus tries to do in all of the creation of standards and stuff is to make it easier for all of us with our various systems to integrate those systems. It's designed to be straightforward, and it is important to understand that many of our providers, 2 of them on the call here today, offer assistance and help with tools to assist with the transition from not using the codes to use them. For support and resources, there's documentation, there's technical support, and there sometimes are training sessions to help the retailers understand and implement the codes effectively. And understand that this goes into a variety of systems outside of just your stores, including now the extension on in the fleet. And not, while we won't want to talk about EMV fleet tags in this particular webinar, we are now getting to the point where EMV chips are coming if they're not already on some of the fleet cards out there. And so the codes have to be implemented within that system as well. And then lastly, but not leastly, especially for the retailers, is utilizing the payment system product codes. You can position yourself to easily accommodate future changes and updates. Make sure then, obviously, as what Todd said, you have long-term compatibility and correct reporting and the relevance of the data in there. But back to Miss Sharon. How do the codes help with future proofing?
Excellent question. One of the ways, and you had brought up that we've tied this very closely into the EMV fleet tags. We've also taken a look at the product names are very long, and how could we make adjustments for mobile payments, receipts, so that those look a little bit more consistent. So this one also has recommendations for a short name for each one of the products. I talked already about the EV. For those of you who are impacted by the possible interchange fee prohibition act in Illinois, we already have taxes and gratuities included as product codes to start tracking that information. All of the requirements for future fuels we're taking a look at, really looking for people who have some more information on hydrogen, as we know that that's coming up and we just need a little bit more education in that space.
Excellent. Brad, when you're supporting your customers, how has this set of codes helped Bullock and Dover in that support of their customers?
It makes it pretty easy to go back to our existing customers and let them review the list, and we would incorporate that list into a pull-down menu for the customers who want to subscribe to it, restricting mistakes, entry mistakes wherever possible. General merchandise is not always a great descriptor for merchandise, and getting our back office, the price books, even at the site level, to validate specifically with a pull-down list that lists exactly what the code is, it makes it much easier for use of the Bullock and a consistent reporting mechanism for as our customers move forwards with analysis of data.
Okay. Todd, how does the standards-based approach help fuel retailers?
And Chuck, I had what I was going to call the 3 C's, which were consistency, congruency, and compliance. But I heard you say compatibility, so we're gonna increase that and make it the 4 C's, and say all of those really help our retailers. One, from identification, as we talk about, what's on a street sign, and matching up to what's on the dispenser, and then what matches up to on the receipt, so the consumers can be able to identify and recognize everything that's being purchased as what they're expecting to see or what they're expecting to purchase. I think part of the integrations team or integration process as we've gone through the standards was making product codes more uniform, more universal, by removing some of the uniqueness to things where we may have had something that was specifically called super, and we've tried to adapt that to become super / premium / whatever, and that way it's more universal, because we don't all use the same names for our products, and so having the ability to manage those but use the same standards set of product codes helps us all by being a little bit more universal across the network.
And I'll go back to Sharon here and say, in my time helping with all this with you, because I'm the vice chair of the Retail Financial Transactions Committee, we have seen a proliferation of those codes in order to make that happen. Percentages of biodiesel as one example, but Todd, your point, right? And maybe you said it, Brad, when we were getting ready for this. We have unleaded, we have mid-grade, we have premium. Or we could have unleaded and plus and super. Or we could have, and they're just, too many names, and the codes here, Sharon, are just trying to make sure that as the detailed of the transaction flows through the systems, that it matches correctly, correct?
Absolutely. And regionally, we notice that there's a difference in octane. That's been ongoing question of why don't we list octane? Regionally, it's different what those products are. So we've made it much more, I'm going to say generic, but detailed enough to be informative.
Canada is bilingual, so we have to contend with a different language as well.
That's true. I was going to throw in one other thing. As we went through the different iterations, we've kind of seen changes over time where we used to have unleaded and leaded fuel. As things migrated essentially to an unleaded only type environment, we thought, why are we still calling products regular unleaded if everything is unleaded? So we've removed some of that complexity by just reducing the names down to unleaded. Same thing with like ultra low sulfur diesel. When it used to be differentiated, it was beneficial, but as the market moved to nothing but those products, we've been able to consolidate, deprecate some of the old codes, and then reuse them either in the newest iteration or put them available for future use.
Great. I would like to point out we're going to have Q&A before we end today. We're about halfway through or so, I think. There is a Q&A button on the bottom of the toolbar of this webinar. Please feel free to enter your questions into that at any point in time as you hear us talking about something may spur a question, as we'd like to answer any and all of those questions that you have for us while we're here together. Ms. Casey, moving on to the next slide about data management security, there's really 3 areas that these codes play a crucial part in: accuracy and reporting, and that's reporting from the site level, it's reporting at the home office, it's reporting that coming back from the acquirers and the front-end processors, and it's the methodology that you need in order to be compliant with all your tax reporting. It's the methodology you need to make sure you're having discounts and other things that you offer through your loyalty program or other kinds of programs with your customers, so that we're adhering to that. And data is everything today, honestly, so we want to make sure that quality data gives us quality reporting, inventory reporting, tax reporting, movement in compliance with the fleet reporting we need for our customers, which allows us to get better and better and better at the insights and decision-making capabilities that comes out of this data. It's also very important to note that this helps with the data security because we have to keep the data secure, and as we go forward in life, more and more of those data security requirements are going to be conformed. So we want to remove manual entry. We want to remove any capability of systems to misreport. And so data management here is imperative. So we'll go, I don't know if I can move backwards here. We'll start with Todd. How does data product code lifestyle management impact daily operations? Because the codes do change. Just this year we did.
Yeah, so I mentioned just a little bit ago that we have the ability to go in and take products out of the life cycle, for the product management. We deprecate those. That way we don't end up with a list that becomes overly burdensome. And it allows us to reuse some of those when we have future products. But really the product life cycle management, or we'll call it PLM just for short, since it is a little bit hard to say, really can significantly impact daily operations. Having a unified product value chain, the PLM integrates really various stages of the product code lifecycle, from the conception to the retirement, which includes the deprecation of those codes, facilitating really a smoother business planning and implementation process for all of us. So as new codes are implemented, it helps us as we go through the team and determine what's the viability for it, what's the necessity for it, and then how to plan that and incorporate it into it. And then whether or not there's anything that goes along with that we need to basically deprecate because it's maybe an overriding product, or whether it's a supplemental product that we need to add variations to it to include. Innovation and speed, streamlining processes really helps drive innovation, helps us get these to the field faster for new products. And then collaboration, it helps bring together all of the different companies that are involved in the product lifecycle, really enhances the coordination between the card providers, the back office providers, the POS providers, really helps with the efficiency of the implementation really at a site level, which is beneficial for us.
Brad, we kind of talked about it the last time, but what kind of inconsistencies in the use of codes have you experienced and Volks had to try to make sure that their customers understand too?
Yeah, in the past, something as simple as an installer typing in the mid grade as mid dash grade or mid space grade, it was challenging to compare like to like. Having a consistent standard allows you to take transactional data, put it in your data lake, and analyze it like for like, and taking out the spelling mistakes or the implementation mistakes as much as possible. And then when you move on to some of the historical reporting that Todd was reporting, you can transform that data to meet your new reality relatively efficiently. In the past, we did have customers who were inconsistent with their grade names, etc. Consistency is key to having accurate reporting.
Ms. Sharon, how do fleet issuers use these codes in order to benefit their organizations as well as the end users?
So what's unique in fleet space, unlike the consumer space where you go to make a purchase as the cardholder, you are responsible for what you want to purchase, you make those decisions. In the fleet space, that cardholder, the driver, doesn't actually have the decision-making process. It's their fleet manager who goes, I've given you a diesel vehicle. I only want you to buy diesel fuel. I'm a really nice fleet manager. You can go buy lunch at the C-store with this card. So a third party is making those decisions, and the payment system product codes allows us to communicate and say, yes, this meets what the fleet manager is allowing, or no, you're trying to purchase something that you're not allowed to purchase. Then it goes on to allowing us to do tax reporting for fleet managers and management companies on maybe they are eligible for tax rebates or things like that. And it facilitates setting up relationships between fleets and merchants for commercial discounting or things like that. So it helps facilitate all those things behind the scene to give a better experience, both for the drivers and the fleet managers.
Great. Ms. Casey, I think we'll move on to the next slide. We're getting here actually closer to the end than I thought. And here for you and your organizations, here's the call to action. Number one, most importantly, review and understand your POS configuration. Make sure that you have implemented inside the configuration the most current set of product codes that are applicable to your businesses. You can put them all in, I guess, but if you're not ever going to sell racing fuel, there's probably not a reason to have racing fuel code in your POS system. Secondly, make sure that your providers and issuers are also using the Conexxus point payment system product codes and are current on that usage. We would like to tell you, because all four of us are part of volunteer our time in the Retail Financial Transaction Committee and its working groups, to come and engage with us and get involved in working with us on that. And we do things more than just the payment system product codes. And maybe here's where I let Sharon give the pitch about all the fun things that we do at RFT.
Well, thanks. Yes, we do more than, I'm going to say, some product codes, although that's a big part of it. We've mentioned, we talk about the EMV fleet tags. The latest work that we've been doing is on the EBT moving to chip and the implications that that's going to have from a payment environment, from a merchant standpoint. What are some things we need to get ready to support that? As those rules have been coming out, we've been looking into point-to-point encryption has fallen into this area, as well as talking about the other payments. So there's 6 committees: digital offers, digital wallets, mobile, electronic payment server, loyalty, and gift card, that also are under this umbrella, and we can talk about those at the parent level to have a higher level understanding of what's going on. Did I miss anything, Chuck?
No, you got them all. Maybe you could explain what digital offers is, though, because that word doesn't mean what probably our
Same
audience.
thing to everyone.
Yeah.
And why do we have digital offers and digital wallets? So digital offers focuses on bringing in, how can we get coupons into your wallet and into your hands, basically digital coupons into your hands so that you're using them as much as possible. It also helps improve the fact that petroleum has more difficulty accepting paper coupons. The whole settlement process of that is very complicated and overbearing. So this takes on that role to help the settlement, the payment effort, so a consumer has a better experience and the retailer has a better experience.
And the couponing industry as a whole is working on standardization of this into a format to make it easier for all of us too, right?
Yeah. And this is one of the areas where we work with other standards bodies to integrate work that they've done and work that we do, which has been very rewarding.
All right. Casey, it says contact information. We giving out ours, yours? Do you have a slide for that one? I don't know.
So, and let me just jump in there. One thing, if you have any questions on payment system product codes or anything that's going on, you can contact info@conexxus.org to get more information. If you want a new product code, but you don't know how to get started, that's a great way. You can also reach out to any of us individually to help you get started with the process.
And many of you know all of us, or at least some of us, and can reach out that way. I think the most important thing that we could tell you about this also is, as soon as your organization knows you need a code that's not there today, that's the time to get a hold of us. We don't necessarily attempt to update the code any more frequently than a year or so. If there's not a reason to update it, we won't. But we want to make sure that we can be timely in getting it all the way through and implemented and into the guide, into the code listing for you as quickly as away. I'm sorry, as a way to quickly get it in so that your reporting will be correct. And we realize with the advent of, I won't use the word boutique, but additional flavors of fuel or additional levels of grading of a fuel, and I use air quotes there because I'm talking about electricity, and that's measured a lot differently than gasoline, as we well know. We've got to have consistency and conformity in that. So that's about where we are. I think we're ready to move to Q&A, I think. And
We have one more call to arms.
okay.
And we're looking for some expertise to help us with hydrogen fuels and R99, R100 fuel, RON 99 and RON 100 fuels, as we're getting those put into the specification. So that's
those of you who have those or are anticipating selling those, putting them in your system, please come join and help us talk to and work through all the questions so we can get them in the code listing correctly. All right, panel type questions open to anybody, not calling on each of you individually. I'm a retailer. I already have defined a code for proprietary use product that I want to have, and now I've got a new product and I want a new code. Can I ask that my number be used in the standard?
I'll take that one, or I'll at least start with that one. So we very specifically have proprietary product codes that are often used when something's getting started or something that is very, very unique to your brand or business. We don't put those then into the public space because someone else will have used them for some other reason and we don't want to break that. We will then take a code that's in the Conexxus space and create the public code for that. So no, we wouldn't take the existing code, but as soon as you start talking to us, we can tell you what the public code will be to make the transition a little bit easier.
Okay. Maybe this is probably the time since we've been talking about codes and public codes and private codes and all that kind of stuff. There has been a question asked about Conexxus payment system product codes and the NACS category management category definitions and number codes. And I don't know if you want to take that one, Sharon, or you want me to do that one, but those are two separate things with separate reasons for existence and separate maintenance. However, they both end up in point of sale systems. They both end up in back office systems. They both end up in, I have one of my friends who's a price book manager on the call today, and I appreciate him coming. So the price book managers have to manage to get all this data in there as well too. This is developed independently from the next category management codes, correct?
Correct. So as in the title, the payment system product codes are very focused on the payment aspect of it, making sure that that stays in the regulatory and compliance and reporting issues, where the exact product makeup may change season to season. You have your summer fuel and your winter fuel, even gasoline. And we don't change that because it's much heavier lift on the sites to change that.
Right.
That stays consistent, but the actual product that you're selling and tracing from terminal to dispenser is traced differently for the different purposes. Does that help?
It does. I mean, the other example I would use is we know general merchandise is a NACS category code. General merchandise is a payment systems product code. They're not the same number by any means.
That's very true.
All right. I'm in a location, or my retail stores are in a location where I have very excellent care from my local weights and measures people, and they are telling me I have to have a different name on my receipt than what's coming through from the payment system product codes. How do I connect with you, the RFT? Who do I do to get something about making the correct name available for a code?
So local requirements for the naming of a product can be very, very specific. And while the specification today, the payment system product code list, has a recommended short name, and that was so you didn't have to go through there and make sure everything was unique. We went through and did that. Any local requirements can overwrite what that is. So if you can't say that it's B100, you have to spell out biodiesel 100. That's perfectly acceptable to do. We just want to give some guidance to help create shorter names so that receipts don't chop them off at an unusual place or things like that.
Brad, when an update comes, is there a way to just electronically download the new codes into the point of sale systems, and or is it a maintenance process that is a little more manual than that?
Fortunately, with Bullock, we have remote access. We can upgrade sites in place remotely and automatically. So we have the capability of making changes automatically and seamlessly to the site level. So that's not a challenge for us. It's getting consensus and making sure that we meet the business needs of the end user.
Especially when you're dealing with somebody who's spread across the entire expanse of a state or a region or even a country, where there are questions about the name of a product here versus there.
Yep.
All right.
And I would just add to that you do have to work with your acquirers and POS providers on that, because answers may differ based on your integrations.
I think maybe you could assure our watchers and listeners as well, Sharon, that it's not just us doing this by ourselves. We have active participation from MasterCard and Visa as well, correct?
Yes. As we took on the work of the EMV fleet tags, MasterCard and Visa have requested some enhancements to it. They don't have the vote because they aren't members, but they have been able to provide input into some of the product codes that needed to be added.
And that's what we're looking to from all of you, is we need your help and your input to make this all work. The standard is there for all of us to use, but it can only be made better by the effort of all of us in the industry to make that better. There's a nice comment in the Q&A about how we have evolved it and made it better over time for this one person who hadn't looked at it for a while, and that's the goal. It's to be ongoing, to make it better and useful, as Todd mentioned. As time goes on, we deprecate and mark for removal codes that aren't being used, but we also know that it takes a while for products to get through the system and all the way out. So if we don't delete them today, we will mark them as deprecated and ask people to stop using them, and then we will move forward from there. So, Ms. Casey, I don't know that there are any other questions in the Q&A.
Chuck, I just wanted to add one thing to what Sharon
Please
said.
do.
That, trying to get additional members into the group to help with this. There's still work that needs to be done. We've done a lot of work on the product code standardization, but we still have challenges in the industry with some of the legacy environments, whether it be particular cards that still use a 2-digit code or use something that's unique or proprietary to their card type. So trying to get everybody to the standard and utilize the existing Conexxus versions of product codes is really going to benefit us all long term. And so the more participation that we have, the more involvement, and then the more standardization we have across everybody using it, I think will help us benefit us all throughout time.
And I want to particularly talk about the fact that it's the retailer participation that the majority of the providers, maybe not all, but the majority of them are involved, and they come in and they go out as time goes on in particular areas within how Conexxus operates, because the loyalty standard is done and we're not doing anything for loyalty for a while.
Yeah.
But we know that your life as a retailer changes every day. And we are here as a service organization to the convenience fuel industry to help all the retailers as much or more than just the providers. So you've probably heard it before. You're going to hear it again from many of us or all of us. Every time a retailer helps chime in, it makes it better for all of us. So we really do encourage your participation, and we are thankful to the folks at Phillips 66 that they let Todd come and work with us on this stuff too. And there are many retailers here in attendance, either at the beginning or even now at the end of this webinar, and we appreciate that greatly. But engage with all of the committees of Conexxus, not just retail financial transactions. And if you need to learn more, www.conexxus.org, so you can see all the things that we're doing. Ms. Casey, unless there's another Q&A, I think we'll leave it to you to wrap up.
All righty. Well, I just want to thank all of our speakers for being here with us today and all of the attendees for coming. Just wanted to let you all know a couple of the topics we have coming up for future webinars, either later this year or early next year. We're going to be doing one on targeted risk analysis, data privacy with Maverick, Sunrise 2027, and then we're going to be doing something with PCI. So make sure you either subscribe to our email list, check our website, follow us on LinkedIn. That way you can stay in the know about all of the stuff that's coming up and when those webinars will be. So thank you all for attending, and hope you all have a great day.